My name is Neus Miró, and I've been working as a curator for about 20 years, as a professor at the university for about 2 years.
Neus Miró has the job most of you wish you had: curator, art critic, and devoted cinephile. With an MA in curating contemporary art from the Royal College of Art, she's worked with icons like Sharon Lockhart, Jackie Irvine, and Jane and Louise Wilson. Museums, contemporary art, and film are her lifeblood. She clocks in at least 2 to 3 movies a week to stay sharp. And if anyone can break down what video art actually is, it's her.
We're filming here because this is the first place where I worked after my master's. That was 2 years full time, and that is mid-90s. That's important because that was a time when London was blossoming. It was really booming with artists working with all kinds of media, and I was drawn to artists working with video and film. Everything was going on around me. There were artists like Douglas Gordon, like Jane and Louise Wilson, Darcy Dean, Steve McQueen. That was a time when all those artists came up. And we're filming here because right after that master's, I came back to Barcelona, where I come from. Here I put up my first exhibition on video and film, which was called In the Meantime. And it was with Jane and Louise Wilson piece, Sylph Floyer, and Jackie Irvine. Here on this wall, there was a Jane and Louise Wilson. On that wall, coming down from the stairs, there was a Sylph Floyer. And on that other room, which now it's blocked, it was a Jackie Irvine, 60 millimeters film. I remember that day like being very nervous because there was already a queue outside the gallery before the opening. And yeah, it was great. There was this term that was coined by Raymond Velour and Jean-Christophe Rogier, also used it, which was exhibition cinema, which referred to all those artists that use cinema in an exhibition mode. And that was my interest, and still is. The fact that the space, the exhibition space, kind of offers the artist another way to work with moving image, which is spatial on top of being time-based. So you have a duration, of course, but then you have also a navigation throughout the space, which is different from a cinema in a movie theater, which is only one screen. The space, the exhibition space, allows the artist to work with the space and then to work with multiple screens and to break up the narrative, the linear narrative. That was something that David Lamelas already made in 1972, the early 70s. But with the digital that came up in the 90s, it was easier to implement that, to use it. All those artists had been raised with television, with the option of recording movies. So I remember a work by Douglas Gordon, which is 24-hour cycle, an important work at that time. He took the film Psycho by Hitchcock and slowed it down to make it last 24 hours and show it at the Hayward Gallery. That was such an impact because he removed the sound and slowed down the film. So all the tropes and mechanisms of the narrative were lost because you couldn't follow the story, right? You couldn't stand there for 24 hours. Plus, it was also a challenge for the institution. How can you show a work that lasts for 24 hours? Another thing that, for instance, Douglas Gordon mentioned in an interview is that all his generation raised with television and VHS, so the possibility to go back, rewind, go forward, change the speed of the movie. They were raised with a cinema on a small screen, on television. The term video art was coined, in the 60s. And nowadays, I don't use it so much. For instance, I say works on film and works on video. We are being told by history of art that the first artist that acquired a video camera was Paik.
And I brought TV set to gallery, and it got broken, and only one this on this shape was not interesting. I said, oh, I would not show. Then I said, oh, maybe I turn around here like that. And then I put title Zen for TV, you know.
Now it's been revealed that perhaps it was Andy Warhol. And it makes sense because it was really rich at the time, was very wealthy. And when he was asked about the difference between 16mm between film and video, he said, well, it's just the same, it's just longer. Because 16mm was 3 minutes, the roll, whereas in video you can film forever, you can film much longer. Video art, for me, is just a term that applies to the beginning of video. So when artists incorporate that new technology at the time into their practice. So that's 60s, early 70s. I think the 90s is another thing, because actually the artists were shifting from film to video constantly. You know, the main difference is in the process of making it, of production. Language can go from one side to the other. I mean, language is across the board. Nowadays, social media is one of the interests or influences, references to artists. So that language has become part of the language of video and film. Performance now is also key for the artists. But it was also in the 90s and the 60s, but it's different. Different in the terms that performance is now more dance-based, perhaps, whereas at the time, performance was a performance made for the camera, right? I would say that we have gone back to linear narrative, whereas 20 years ago, an interest by artists was to break up that kind of linear narrative. Now because of, I guess, internet, because, you know, it's more fragmentary, but at the same time, there's more a will, a desire to deliver a story. And it was an interest by artists to kind of suspend suspended time, for instance. Tacitadine would be a case, you know, where observation was key, you know, to just have long shots, you know, the long of duration.
When the sun sets into a clear, crisp horizon, and when there is no land in front of you for a few hundred miles, and no distant moisture that could become, at the final moment, a backlit cloud that obscures the opportunity, you stand a very good chance of seeing the green ray.
There's a trend called immersive exhibitions. And there's two kinds of immersive exhibitions, in my opinion. There's this kind of immersive exhibitions where you are surrounded by screens, right, by projection. For instance, an exhibition, a solo show by Frida Kahlo with that technique. I myself am not interested at all in that. I'm interested where the artist rules the space. So an immersive art has been there for centuries. A medieval church was an immersive experience. You had, and also multisensory in the sense of that you have the images, you've got the golden, you've got the flickering light of the candles, you've got the smell. That's totally immersive. Another example would be Olafur Eliasson. I saw an exhibition at the Malmo Kunsthalle years ago, White Cube Gallery. You walked in and there was nothing, only the other visitors, but he had changed the lighting. So you could only see in black and white. So, you know, we were all in black and white. That's an immersive exhibition as well. That changes your perception and changes the way you relate to the others, relate to the architecture space. I do prefer those exhibitions that are immersive in a way that are very thoughtful rather than just projecting images on, you know, on the walls just for its own sake. An artist that thinks very thoughtfully about exhibition as a total experience is Philippe Parreno. He kind of conceives the exhibition as a time-based format where there's a succession of phases, right? So it's very cinema-like, but also space-based. I do prefer to go to see the exhibition of a video or a film, you know, in the space. Of course, now, I mean, you can access by a password, Vimeo, you know, the different platforms. So that makes it easier. But I still prefer to see it in the space. I like cinema. I watch about 2-3 films per week on a platform, but also to a movie theater. I like the ritual of a movie theater. I like to stand on the queue. I like to get my ticket. You know, I like that, and I claim that because it's a social experience. Now, on top of that, I would say that video and film needs to be properly exhibited, because sometimes it's just projected because, you know, institutions where they think that video is easy because you just need the projector. Well, no, really. I mean, you need space conditions as well. You see, video has changed right from the very beginning, from the magnetic format to, you know, VHS, Umati, blah, blah, blah. Now it's a pen drive. But the storage is really key. And video will be lost if we don't store it properly. And for instance, Viola was talking about that, how he needed to renew the format every now and then because the formats become obsolete. And then, you know, you cannot watch that anymore, either because you don't have you can't copy anymore, or because you don't have the equipment to watch it, right? So what I think is that film will save video in the end. So because film, the celluloid, is much more long-lasting and much more, is much more endurable. So analog will still save digital. Funny enough, film still works. Whereas video, it disappears. It's very fragile. We rely everything on Google. Google is not a storage. It cannot become a storage. And the fact that everything is on a network, networks are problematic from our point of view. If you unplug something, the light is gone. You know, it's very fragile. We rely on something and things that nowadays are very extremely fragile and depend on a few people. I believe that's very dangerous. I'm still kind of a material person in that I need the book. It doesn't matter if I can download it. That's something that's ephemeral. But the long-lasting, the long-term, it's material. It still is. Yeah, in the end, film will save video. It's not the other way around. That term, you know, everybody's a curator. I mean, it's, for me, it's problematic in terms of that's something of a fashion, of a trend nowadays, or it's been there for a while now. But that position was called before programmer, right? A programmer of a theater, of a movie program. For me, a curator is something very specific of the art world, of the exhibition making. It cannot be transferred to other spheres. For instance, the other day I just passed by a clothing shop and it was curated by what? I mean, this is not, selection by, you can designed by, you can use other words, but for me, curation, it's very specific. It's a very specific word. And it's a development from a critical position. In the late 90s when I started, curation was a ramification or something that you could do as a critic, as an art critic. So it's kind of an elongation of that. There's no curation without a critical background, so to speak. That's difficult. Yeah. You follow your interest, your subject matter that is more interesting to you. But nowadays we are so obsessed and so surrounded by media, by social media, video art and film, and requires time. And to give it time, for people, a major effort. But if you can actually, convince them, if you can actually engage them in a way that this will give you something, an experience that is unique. It's a singular exhibition. It's a singular moment. I still remember exhibitions that I saw in my early 20s. It's not an ephemeral experience. It's a long-lasting experience. You will recall that, and that's one of the things that, for instance, when we're asking about the CIFRA platform and award. One thing I do is after I watch a few films and I don't know which one, give the award in this case or select in one exhibition, I give it some time. I give it some time of pause, of not looking at it back again, and see what I remember. Which one is the one I remember?